Welcome to the Powerhouse Podcast. I'm Gabrielle Caine, and this show reveals what successful people do differently so you can too. We'll dig into the choices, habits, and turning points behind the results and leave you with one practical step to use each week. Hey, Ronnie, why don't you start by introducing yourself? Tell our listeners who you are and what you're about.
All right. Thanks, Gabby. I appreciate you having me today. My name is Ronnie Fisher. I live in Niagara Falls. I am a real estate investor, entrepreneur. I am a success coach strategist as well. I enjoy helping people discover what their purpose are, their passions are, helping them identify some of the limiting beliefs that may be holding them back from achieving their goals. And I look forward to getting into this conversation with you today, Gabby.
Awesome. Thanks, Ronnie. Wow, that you said a mouthful right there. All these things that you do, how do you help people realize their passion?
Well, a lot of people are, I discovered it first of all by a book called Think and Grow Rich. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's one of the first personal development books. So there's a lot of things that I like to share from that book. And just through conversations that I have with people, oftentimes I recognize certain things and I probe, I ask questions, I start to dig into people's lives because I genuinely care. And so when I hear certain things, I may have some sort of suggestions or some sort of advice, but I love building the conversation just to see people where people are at.
Okay, that sounds pretty amazing and also loaded at the same time. How did you get started in that? Actually, let's backpedal just a little bit further. Did you start off working for someone else or another company at one point where eventually you came to the realization that you wanted to do this?
Yeah, absolutely. My background, I come from construction, and right out of high school, I started swinging a hammer. I was a framing carpenter. In fact, at the beginning, I was a laborer. I was the grunt, the gopher, go get this, go get that. But I had the ambition to learn and pick up the skill set, and eventually I was swinging the hammer myself. Eventually, I got to a point where I became the foreman. I was the one marking out the walls, and I was reading the blueprints and those type of things. So the boss that I always had in the beginning, he finished basements to keep us warm in the wintertime. And so I got good at all of the interior trades. I learned how to drywall, I learned how to paint, install cabinetry, those type of things. So I worked my way up in construction. Eventually, I became a site supervisor for new home construction. And at a time in my life, 1 week before my firstborn, I was laid off because there was no more work. And because I was laid off at that time, it was something that really inspired me to become an entrepreneur, to work for myself. I'm never going to allow working for somebody else dictate the direction of my life. So I got into my own construction business, specifically doing renovations, did that for several years. And during that process, I discovered that I'm still working for others. I'm still looking for clients and customers, and I found myself working harder than ever before. A lot of people who are entrepreneurs can probably relate to that. Just the fact of, you wear more hats when you own the business as opposed to just working in the business or for somebody else. So I found myself working kind of 24/7. And then I went to this event. It happened to be in San Diego. It was called The Secret Knock. And at The Secret Knock, I discovered the book Think and Grow Rich. And that really opened up my eyes to that there's a formula to success. There is a path. There is a blueprint, if you will, to achieve whatever it is that your heart desires. And that's what really ignited I need to do more with my life, and I want to share what I've learned along the way and inspired to help educate, inform, motivate. So that's kind of how I got started. It was a bit of a transition, and I contributed to that book.
Wow, that's impressive. I need to read that book.
It's a must. It was written in 1939. It's got a long history of it. I don't think, other than the Bible, I don't think there's any other book that sold more copies too, by the way. So if you haven't read it already, I think it's time.
I'm gonna look that up. Thank you for the recommendation. Okay, so if I understand you correctly, you started working for someone else. You relied on them to teach you skills, to give you what you needed, in order to move forward. There we go. I think that actually sounds better. So in order to move forward and to get work and to get paid, you relied on someone else. Unfortunately, that fell through, and at a very critical moment in your life and your family's life, it just dropped and it was out of your control. How did it feel when you work so hard, you put forth so much effort, you always volunteered, being a gopher, always the go-getter, and then something out of your control brings everything to a complete halt.
Well, it's interesting because when I shared that with people of what was happening, my circumstances, my situation, I got a lot of people saying, "Oh my God, what are you going to do?" And automatically others took it towards the negative side of things. They looked at it as, okay, panic mode, urgent. What are you going to do? How do you recover from this? And I honestly looked at it as an optimistic outlook. I looked at it as this is an opportunity to make a change because had this not happened to me, I'd probably still be doing what I was doing. So I look at it as a silver lining, like it forced me to get into doing something different. So although it was probably one of the worst times going through those challenges and being a new dad type of thing, the reality is that it opened up new possibilities and new doors. So everybody that had that sort of, oh, I'm so sorry for you, I turned it around. I didn't accept the fact that this was going to be a negative thing. I made it into a positive, and I was excited for the next opportunity, the next chapter.
Wow. That really is resounding in the sense that your frame of mind is what really allowed you to perceive what was going on in a different light compared to the majority of the people that are going through that. And I've gone through it too. I've gone through job loss, so I know that feeling. I'm familiar with it, and it kind of just sits heavy inside like, what am I going to do? What did you, was there ever a time where you felt like I can't do this? Like, did you ever doubt yourself? And how did you move forward? What was your thought process to move forward and take that big leap of faith?
Did I ever doubt myself? Absolutely. 100%. I think that we all carry limiting beliefs. I think that there's a doubt, there's the uncertainty, there's the things that fear is a big one. Fear prevents us from moving forward. And if you don't know what the next steps look like, sometimes it's very paralyzing. So I definitely went through that. But I also realized that if I don't show up for myself, there's nobody that's going to come and save me. The reality was that if I don't do this and if I don't make the change, I'm not going to just sit around and wait. And, perhaps being in that, I'll explain it like your back's up against the wall, meaning I got a young family. I was living paycheck to paycheck. And what are you going to do if you don't do something? And so, you have a lion behind you, and I live by that philosophy. In fact, I've got one on my right wall over here, about just as big. And the reality was that I look at lions are leaders, and I needed to lead the family despite what I was going through. And so I just used that to fuel me. I used a negative circumstance and turned it into the positive and made sure that I was going to, do something with my life outside of the norm, outside of the comfort level, I suppose. And I was starting to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And sometimes it's those pain points and those hardships that really motivate you to strive to work harder, right? And I think that that's what really, really propelled me was just, I'm going to do this. I have no choice.
Hmm. Can you walk us through how you did that? How you went from working for someone else to reading a book to seeing, I think it was the seminar that you had said. How did you take the steps to take action and move forward through all of that and pushing yourself and supporting your family and being a new dad? Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, absolutely. In the book, there's this success formula, and I'm going to share it with everybody. So I can't take credit for this. This was written in 1939, okay? But the success formula is your passion plus your talent plus your association, take action, and have faith. And that really stood out to me. The reality was that it was the first time that I ever looked at that as, okay, do I have all of these criteria? And let me start again. The first one, passion. At the time in my life, I had no clue what my passion was or what my purpose was. And I was kind of drifting through life, uncertain, just doing what, status quo or doing what the expectations are, finding a job or just to pay the bills. The reality was I wasn't following my dreams. In fact, I wasn't dreaming big enough. I was literally just kind of, this is what I need to do to provide. So that really triggered, okay, I need to discover my passion. I need to discover my purpose. And that kind of led on its own mission. My talents? Well, I was always told that I was talented in so many different ways, but I had that limiting belief. I didn't believe in myself at the time. So I had to recognize what those talents were and then really start utilizing them and use those talents to benefit me, to be able to, contribute to that success formula. One of the biggest ones, the third one is association, the people that you surround yourself with. They say you're a reflection of the five people you hang around. You hang around five bums, you'll probably be the sixth bum. You hang around five millionaires, you might become the sixth millionaire. And I looked at my association back then and I said, well, the friends that I had, although great people and all, caring about me and stuff like that, they're not at a level of where I want to be. So if the more I hang around them, the more I'm going to absorb. And if they're not going anywhere, I'm likely not to go anywhere. So I needed to change that. I needed to follow successful people, find a mentor as well. Faith. Faith in a higher power is pretty important to me. I do believe in God, and I also believe in the faith in oneself. So that's pretty huge. That's overcoming those limiting beliefs and believing that, yes, no matter what happens, no matter what you're facing, no matter what those challenges are, I believe I'm going to succeed. And it was very difficult for me to say that in the beginning. Very difficult. And the last one is passion, talent, association, take action, and have faith. Oh, sorry, I missed action. But, taking action. If you're paralyzed by the things that are holding you back and the things that are preventing you from achieving your goals and achieving your dreams, and let's face it, most people don't even know what their goals are. And I've been hosting a couple group meetings. This is the best time of year. We're in January. I'm still talking about people fulfilling on their New Year's resolutions. And it's funny, I told a gentleman I saw at the gym this morning, I was there at 7:30. I said, "Where are all the people with the New Year's resolutions? It's still January." So a lot of people don't even have goals. They don't know what they want, or they set a goal and there's really no commitment or discipline behind it. So that was a success formula that really shifted where I was at, what I want, and identifying those type of things so that I can move forward.
Wow. Okay, so you took action. What's the fifth step again?
Well, that was it. Passion, talent, association, take action, and have faith. I just
And have
reversed the
faith.
last two.
That's right. That's right. So discipline, that's a really big one. That's so hard because so many people can think, I want to be fit, I want to be successful, I want to do this. It would be so amazing if, but having the discipline to do it is so difficult to maintain. And you can get it started. I've done it so many times myself. I've been working out for 6 months straight and I'm so excited and my day doesn't feel complete unless I do it. And then I just fall off for a week because I went on vacation or I did something else. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, now I got to get back into it and I can't. So how do you, I don't want to use the word train. What word do I want to use? How do you program your mind and your physical body to take action and use that discipline and maintain it? Maintaining is key, I think.
It is. Yeah. Motivation only gets you so far. The reality is that you can feel motivated and you can feel inspired and you can feel encouraged, but have you really made the commitment and do you have the discipline to continue to show up for yourself? I go to the gym in the morning and it's absolutely freezing cold. Yeah, like I have every reason why not to get out of bed, not to go outside, not to brush off the snow from the vehicle and all that kind of stuff. But I think what's really helped me is the fact that I don't know, maybe I've just overcome that hurdle and now it becomes part of the lifestyle. So it is programmable and teachable. And the reality is that if you continue to show up for yourself, it becomes a new habit. So I looked at other habits that I once had and making excuses. I'm not going to do it. I'm too tired. I, don't have enough time. Like people are full of excuses. The reality is that we're all given the same amount of time, right? We're here 24/7 and yes, you got to get a good night's sleep and yes, you got to go to work, but if you want something bad enough, you're going to make the commitment to do it. You make it a priority. And so I look at this and talk about the analogy of staying in shape and having fitness goals. And I think at this time of year, everybody wants to be healthier. And at the same time, everybody wants to be wealthier. And I think that they actually require the same type of characteristics, the same type of discipline, and having that same commitment. If you want to have a better body, in fact, I think everybody knows how to do it. I think everybody's well aware that you eat right, you exercise, and get a good night's sleep, right? If you can maintain just those three things, chances are you're on your way. Showing up for yourself, being committed, And again, just going back to the discipline, I think that it really becomes a habit.
Wow, well said. I love all the points that you made there. And it does apply to so many different things in our everyday life, whether it's family, paying the bills, health, everything takes discipline and you have to want it. Something I've been thinking about a lot lately is that uh, going through life and how you had said we have the same amount of time, 24 hours in a day. Every day you're thinking about, prosperity, success, health, that kind of thing. And I'm comparing it, let's say, for example, something that has to do with health. So either way, it's going to be hard. So either you can get up every day and you can be overweight and you can struggle and you can struggle with putting on clothes and feeling comfortable in your own skin, and it's going to be a struggle. Or you can get yourself to the gym or work out at home and you can eat right and it's still going to be hard. But what kind of hard are you choosing?
Love
Which
it.
difficult are you choosing? And that applies to everything in life. It
Yeah.
includes your career.
Yeah.
So that actually brings me to a very important question that I would love to ask you. And this is something that I think is really going to open so many people's eyes. Have you run into obstacles or anything that's come your way, caught you off guard, and just slammed you down on your ass and said, you're not doing this, or this is really difficult, and just set you back?
Ooh, big one. Well, recently, I can't think of anything recent that's been such a big setback, to be honest. I think that sometimes it's preventative, I think. And instead of having things like that slam you unexpected, set you back and stuff like that, when you are committed and when you have the discipline, it's almost like this, no matter what happens, I'm still moving forward. So I haven't experienced anything. There's nothing that specifically comes to mind that has set me back that, I was unexpected or out of control of type of thing. Um, I think if I look back in life, probably there's many things, you got to get knocked down. That business that I had, by the way, that construction business that I started, I had a business partner. And when we got involved and decided to go into business together, I saw all the positives. Once we started the business, I started seeing all the negatives. It was a surprise, it was a shock, and it was like, okay, I didn't expect this. And here's two guys that both have great skill sets, but every single day it was like butting heads. And so that literally, after just a few years, dissolved the company. Sure, we were successful. The reality was that we were able to get lots of jobs, meaning we were selling jobs and we were doing interior and exterior and all kinds of stuff like that. But when you don't enjoy what you're doing every day, and every day was like, regardless of the money that I'm making, I don't want to be here. So that was one of the biggest setbacks because I put so much effort and so much time and so much blood, sweat, and tears into that business that I had to walk away. And that was a huge decision. That was something that I never expected doing when I got involved into it. And at that point, I felt like a failure. The reality was that even though the business was successful, even though I was making money, I felt like I had failed myself because when I closed the doors, I had to lay off other people too. And so that was a big sort of eye opener, big shift. But shortly after that, I realized that that was the best thing that could probably have ever happened to me.
Was it multiple things that happened over time that eventually the straw that broke the camel's back, or was it one
Yeah,
big thing?
no, it was multiple big things. So,
Can
it
you
was
can you walk us through that and tell us
well,
what that
hey,
was?
so I'm 6'4" and I come from a martial arts background, and my partner was half my size. He felt the need to puff up his chest, and we got physical in our office. Okay, so like it was pretty wild. Where here's a little, I call it little man syndrome. Okay, so he would have to kind of puff up his chest and come at me with rage to kind of like offset the size difference, I believe. So there was many things like that. When it came down to money, sure, we were making money, but the decisions on money were another factor. How we spend it, where we advertise, what we do, and things like that. So there was many big factors that led to it. I think I held on with just having the this is how it is, I suppose, or this is how it is with partnerships and accepting the fact that it was so challenging for quite a while. But At a certain point, enough is enough. At a certain point, I'm not, going to deal with that. It's just too negative. So I wanted to sort of get out of that environment, surround yourself with positive people.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I think there's a lot of our listeners that go through that and they, you butt heads or your thought process isn't aligned. What was it that broke the camel's back that made you finally make that decision?
Probably all of the above. And the reality was that, I could do this on my own. I didn't need the partnership. There was not, sure, we were both active and we were both doing certain things, but the work that he did and the work that I did, it was sufficient enough that I could just do what I was doing and I wouldn't have to worry about that part of it. So it was just coming to that realization. And I think when I got into business, I think that I felt the need because I didn't have any previous business experience or entrepreneurship business, that I just felt the need to have a partner to do it with, to sort of experience the growth and stuff like that, to share the workload and stuff. But after a few years, I realized that I'm enough, that I can do this by myself, and that I didn't need that partner. I didn't need the crutch. I didn't need to lean on anybody else. And I think that that's really what, once I got that confidence, after you're dealing with so much negativity, enough is enough. I'm going to do this again for myself without anybody.
Wow. Okay, so you left construction behind. You moved forward, you discovered your passion, which I want to say, yeah, a lot of people don't know what their passion is, right?
Mm.
And how about monetizing that? Does that play a role in the decision-making process? Is that difficult to figure out one, what your passion is, and two, how to monetize it? Or am I completely off?
No, you're bang on for a lot of people. For me, on the other hand, it was almost as if the opportunity fell into place. Once I discovered the passion, once I discovered the purpose, I was given an opportunity to do it as a consultant, as a career. And I thought, hey, I would do this for free. I would literally, my passion and purpose is to help educate and inspire and motivate and help people make transformations. Well, as soon as I kind of outlined what that was, I was given an opportunity in a space, and I was also given the opportunity and to stand on stage and to share a bit of my story and to share how I do those type of things. And so it did turn into a career without actually considering it. So it was kind of like, I don't know, maybe you can call it luck, maybe you can call it manifestation, maybe you can call it the way the universe aligns. But it monetized because I found it. I found the purpose, and now I know what to do. And when you know what you're looking for, doors open. So
Mhm.
yeah, but I do hear a lot of coaches, consultants, they discover their passion, they discover their purpose. I'll use the health and wellness industry as an example. The yogi, for example, the one that's teaching yoga or Pilates or those type of things. They have such a passion for doing this, but they find it's a struggle in order to monetize it because there's a whole business component that comes along with it that they may not be so focused on. Recently, I was talking to a dentist who's got a high ticket skill set, meaning he's a dentist, he makes great money, but he wasn't very smart with his money and he wasn't very smart with his business. And he didn't have the discipline to either invest what he was making. Like he was making some very big mistakes. And we identified some of the problems together. We looked at a different suite of different solutions, and we were able to fix those areas where he was essentially bleeding out of his pockets.
Wow. I love that. I hear that so much. There's so many people out there who make very decent money, but they fall into the consumer mindset and they kind of just burn it all away. So I love that you're helping people come to that realization and help them go through the steps of moving forward to actually invest it, make more money, make your money work for you while you sleep. That whole idea is amazing. I do want to take a second to just acknowledge something that you had said is that you kind of said that it fell in your lap, but earlier you also said that it also depends on who you surround yourself with. So I don't I personally am not a believer that something's going to fall into your lap and you kind of just lucked out. You actually started the steps way, way back when you thought, who am I surrounding myself with? Who am I following on social media? Uh, do these people elevate me in my experience and my skill set? And so if I may, I think that you started a long time prior, and because you lined those things up, it's a little bit at a time, and it was something that you didn't give too much thought to at the time, when you changed who you were following or who you're surrounding yourself with, but eventually it did build up into something that when that opportunity came or when you realized what your passion was, you had already surrounded yourself with the people that were able to present that opportunity to you. What do you think
I
about that?
totally, as you say it back to me, I totally agree with that. 100%. I think that it wasn't just something that fell from the sky. I think it just didn't land in my lap. It's because I was subconsciously preparing myself for that. And so step by step, even though you didn't know exactly what the outcome was going to be, or in that case, how it's going to monetize, to be honest, I wasn't looking for the monetization from it. Because I wasn't looking for it, it just felt like, oh, here it is. But because I had lined up everything else, I think that's what the outcome was naturally going to be, that there's a way to actually earn or monetize from this. But I wanted to lead with the passion. I wanted to lead with being able to help people. I wanted to lead with being able to transform and add value. And I think because I led with that, automatically money followed. And I think that you'll hear a lot of successful people kind of say the same thing. They didn't chase the money. When you're chasing the money, you might be spinning your wheels doing the wrong things. When you're truly leading with empathy, and when you're leading with the ability to want to help people make a change, and you're doing it for the right reasons and not just for the money, sure, there's a lot of coaches and consultants out there that are doing it for the money. It wasn't something that I was necessarily thinking, I'm going to do this as a job, I'm going to do this as a career. But you're right. I think I lined it all up without even realizing that that's what I was doing.
That speaks volumes about you and who you are. And I think you have a very pure soul that just you're here to help people and you seem so selfless and you're thinking about other people and building them up. And I think that that's a beautiful thing. I'm not going to get too emotional on that, but I just think that that's a beautiful thing and that speaks volumes about who you are as a person.
Thank you.
I admire it and I respect it very much.
Thank you.
Um, you're welcome. Let's talk about this opportunity that came to you where you finally realized, okay, let's help people, let's coach. How did that start? How did that evolve?
Well, I like to say I'm a product of the product. I invested in myself. I decided to take some training, some courses. I hired a coach, a mentor. I was completely supported. And then I was given an opportunity to be a testimony and simply share my success story of how I use the tools and how I use the resources and how help and support benefited me. And once I delivered that sort of testimony, I was asked by the organization that I had paid into to participate with them. I had the ability to travel North America, crossing, the border on, twice a month sometimes. It felt so fun and frequent that we were traveling all over the country. I fell in love with the fact that I can be in front of people. I never realized that I enjoyed that sort of spotlight, if you will. But I realized it wasn't coming from a place of ego. It was coming from a place of this is where I could deliver. This is where I can execute. And this is exactly where I'm going to be able to help one to many. So it became something that I realized, wow, I had no idea that this was a possibility for me. Remember, I was swinging a hammer just years before that.
Wow. And so when you're doing this and you're traveling and you're enjoying the process, you're learning, you're traveling, you're having a great time, was there anything that didn't go your way? Any obstacles there that may have come your way where you're like, "Oh, okay, well, I wasn't expecting that."
The hard part about it was, as much as I absolutely loved the travel, there was a component where I wasn't home. And that component of not being available for the kids. And I did go through a divorce at that exact time where I felt like at that time now I was a little bit focused on me instead of so much focused on the relationship and the family. So I made mistakes in that aspect. The reality is that I think that I focused a lot more on me than I should have, perhaps, and then neglected certain things back home. But you live and learn, you make mistakes, and you improve upon them. I recognize them now, and those are the type of mistakes that I never make again.
Wow. Yeah, you know what? I think a lot of people can understand that and relate to what you had just said. And it's hard. it is about balance, and you have to be able to, oh my God, your dog is so cute. Um, you have to be able to balance out the work life and the personal life. And there's a few different elements in there that I'd love to just peel back the layers and figure out what's going on there. Do you not think that it's important that when you're building yourself and you're building your career and it's something that essentially you're starting from the ground up, that you really do need to focus on?
Well, certainly you need to focus on it, but you can't lose sight of the other things that are equally, if not even more important.
So how do you balance those things out?
So there's sort of a balance rule. I'm part of a coaching program myself, men's group type of thing, and we talk about body, being, balance, and business. And those are the four core. So your body is obviously, hey, we got one life at this, take care of yourself. I think that's incredibly important for energy and for longevity. Um, Being spiritually, who are you inside and what kind of soul and what kind of purpose and what kind of passion? And we've been talking about that. Body being balance. Balance is the family life. Balance is those things of friendships and relationships and significant others and the relationship that you have with your children. And then body being balance and then business. So I looked at that formula. There's four of them. They all get 25% effort. And if I'm not putting 25% effort into one of them, that means one of them is deficient in one of those areas. And to truly live a balanced lifestyle where you can maintain all four of those, you got to equally give it the attention it deserves. I see that there's a lot of successful people that neglect their bodies. Sure, they make lots of money, but they're neglecting that side of things, or they're making so much money that they're never home with their families and they're neglecting that side of things. So I've also seen the opposite. There's a few people at the gym that I know spend about 6 hours a day there. Okay. They're not making any money and they're struggling financially, but sure, they're in great shape. So the reality is that you could be focused too much in one area, not enough on the other. And it's important to just recognize the most important areas of life. Those are the four core for myself, and equally give them the attention that they all deserve.
Wow. I think you're right. I think you're onto something.
I can't
Um,
take I can't take credit, Gabby. I read books.
I have a question though. Do you ever think that there's a time where maybe something suffers, let's say the business suffers, and you have to spend more time paying attention to your business than some other aspect of your life? And maybe it's temporary, maybe it's just a few weeks or a few months, but that's what's needed. And then maybe when you're going through a personal life crisis, maybe whether it's health or marriage or what have you, or something's going on with a kid, then do you think that maybe sometimes you have to take away from one of those other pillars to be able to sustain that one that might be suffering in that time?
Yeah, it'll probably be necessary. The reality is that if one of them's suffering, either A, you weren't nurturing enough in the first place. So prevention is a big one before it falls apart. If you're doing the right things, perhaps it won't even happen. But in the event that one of those areas slip and one of those need or require additional attention, I guess you're going to have to take it from somewhere else, but maintain the fact that it's going to be temporary and have an outcome and have a timeline and give yourself a plan, right? And I think that that's what's really important. Like if finances are an issue and you decide to stop focusing on the gym or stop working out or stop eating right because you're now focused all of your time and energy on building your business, let me tell you, I think it's going to be a recipe for failure anyways. You might be focusing additional time. You might feel like you're getting further ahead, but at the end of the day, there's something called burnout. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs also experience exhaustion and burnout from putting too much time in, what do they call it? The burning the midnight oil, like not even getting a good night's sleep because you have to work on your business and you're so focused on the aspect of generating an income that you lose sight. And I think that losing sight is going to be more detrimental than just not having the income that you're looking for.
Did you ever find yourself burning the candle at both ends or burning the midnight oil?
Yeah, like when I started that construction company, reality was, I was still hands-on. I was still showing up on the job site. I also had to do marketing and advertising, and I became a salesman at night, meaning here I am at 8 o'clock at night going to give somebody a quote, going to measure somebody's kitchen, come up with a layup. And then I'd get home 9 or 10 at night and I'd have to type up all that stuff so that I can provide them a written quote on paper and do my calculations. And sometimes I was up so late just because tomorrow morning I got to get up and start my day again. So I have to finish it tonight. And I realized that that's burnout. And the reality is that I was taking on too much. And we've all heard, it's better to work smarter than harder. And here I was working harder, being the only one that was doing these type of things and solely responsible for all of those aspects. And simply the solution was to learn how to delegate more. Assign somebody that opportunity. I don't need to be the salesman. I don't need to go quote the job. I can hire a salesman and pay him a commission. I don't need to do the marketing. I could afford to get somebody to do the marketing. So really just realize where your time is most valuable.
That is right there. You already answered the question. I didn't even have to ask it. And I love that. It's finding what you're good at and sticking to that. And then find where your business needs that support and get someone in that role. And maybe they're better at marketing and quoting and selling than you are because you're focused so much on the other things that you're really good at. And I think that's what builds a very strong business and a strong foundation to, move forward and be able to expand.
Yeah. There's an expression, jack of all trades, master of none, right?
Yeah.
So that was the reality. Of course, I was learning how to market. I was learning how to advertise. I was learning how to keep the books. I was learning how to get out there and sell. Sure, I could do the job, but all those other roles I had zero experience in. I simply took on the role because that's sort of what you do as an entrepreneur. You feel like you have to be everyone, right? So you live and learn. You make mistakes along the way in life, and as we get older, I think that we get wiser. And sometimes you get to learn from your own mistakes. Hopefully, you do. And if you're really smart, you'll learn from other people's mistakes so that you can completely avoid those.
Wow. So maybe that's where it comes in handy, where you're surrounding yourself with other people who are helping you elevate your skill set, because then you can learn from their mistakes as well.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. Look, everyone should have a mentor. Everyone should have a coach. If there's something that you want, and even if you get what it is that you desire, there's probably different levels to what you're doing. You know, as real estate investors, as an example, when I started, I just wanted to flip houses. That was my goal. Why? Because I had the skill set and I knew I was capable of doing it. And instead of me doing estimates and quotes and, doing all that extra work that I just described, I thought that if I could just flip a house, I would avoid talking to the customer. I wouldn't have to sit around waiting for them to pick what colors I'm going to paint and stuff like that, right? So, it's really important to identify what you're best suited at and really, how am I going to get there? What's a plan? And unless I had a coach to tell me that, I'd still be swinging the hammer.
hmm.
The advice that I got, and this was very early on in my coaching experience, my coach asked me, he goes, "So you're a busy contractor?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "How many hours a week you working?" I said, 50, 60 hours a week consistently, I said. And he goes, "Oh, awesome." He goes, "How many hours a week are you spending towards building your passive income?" And I went silent. I said, "I'm not spending any time building the passive income." He goes, "All of your time is going towards running your business, managing your business, and contributing to that." So we came up with a little bit of a game plan. I couldn't just drop what I was doing, but we said instead of 60 hours a week, let's minimize it or maximize at 50 hours. And let's use those other 10 towards doing something different. Because definition of insanity, if you're looking for something different and expecting different results, you can't keep doing the exact same thing over and over, right? So that's when I realized, okay, I needed to shift my time and energy. So I started putting a little bit of energy over here. As soon as that started to come to fruition, I'm like, oh, well, now I'm going to contribute a little bit more time over here and a little bit more time over here. And as you start shifting your time onto the passive side of things, you get to a point where you're like, I don't need to do that construction work anymore. And that was a big game changer for me because I really felt like that was what I don't know, going to be doing for the rest of my life in a sense. You know,
Oh, I love that.
I don't have any calluses other than from going to the gym. I'm not on the tools. There's no more dirt under my fingernails or anything like that. I don't want to be on the job site even though I have the skill set. And it was very difficult to pull myself away in the beginning because I just felt and hey, maybe there was a bit of a chip on my shoulder, maybe a bit of an ego, if you will. I thought I was the best painter. I thought I was the best drywaller. I thought that, and Gabby, finish my sentence. If you want something done right,
You got to do it yourself.
do it yourself. That was my motto. We all know
Oh.
it, right? We all have that sort of embedded in us. We all can finish that sentence. And the reality was that I was wrong. That was ego talking. I'm not the best painter. I'm not the best tradesman. I'm not the best. I was really good. However, there are others just as equally, if not better. And I had to find those. And really, when things took off, was recognizing that mistake I was making, spending too much time doing the tasks that I could definitely delegate.
You're spreading yourself too thin, and
Certainly.
yeah, recognizing where your time is best spent and focusing on that because someone else is going to be really, really good at those other things that you may not enjoy or you may not be the best at. I'm not a techie person, so I need someone to jump in there, whereas maybe I'm really good at building relationships and find that connection, that synergy there. So building your business and becoming a coach to help other people, coming to that realization of, oh my goodness, my coach helped me in all of these ways, helped me open my eyes and shed light on things I never thought about, asked me questions that I never asked myself. And
Mhm.
so is that what you're doing now? Is that you're helping people come to that realization and you're asking them those questions?
Yeah, and I think that's exactly how I do it too. It's asking questions because you can tell somebody, like I could look at somebody and I know exactly where they're making the mistakes, but I'm not going to tell them and dictate to them because they're just not going to get it. It's going to be in one ear and out the other. They're not going to hear it. They're not going to believe it. But when you start asking them questions and you start having them open their mind to discovering the solution themselves, I think that's truly what a good coach is there for, right? To walk you through and help you make those transformations, but without dictating, without necessarily, here's ABC. You're going to, go through the process of discovering what the problems really are, and a lot of people are stuck at that stage where they don't know what their exact problems are. And asking the right questions and probing is going to identify what that is so that the individual who is being coached can do something about it. And then we can talk about the solutions. Okay, well, what would you think would solve that problem now? Right? I might know the answer already, but I'm still going to ask, what would you do to solve that problem? If you were giving advice to someone else, what would you say? And it's amazing how it's within us sometimes, and a good coach is just going to be able to extract it from you.
Oh, that's beautiful. You're absolutely right. And I couldn't possibly agree with you more. I think that that's one is recognizing it in that person and knowing it, but not just handing it over. You have to force them to think.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what I want for our listeners is to think for yourself and think through that problem that you may have and analyze it and be honest with yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror and be honest and say, I can improve here, or I'm not as good at this as I thought I was, and how can I fix this? And I think that is it speaks volumes once again about what type of a coach you are and your passion, where it comes from. If it's not genuine, you're not going to be that good at it,
Hmm.
right? If it's all about the money, if that's the bottom line, that's all you're thinking about is how much am I going to get paid for this? How can I extend this? How can I make it another session? How can I add on more sessions? But when it comes from a passion that's within, it's in your DNA of who you are. That's the driving force, and that's what makes you so good. That's where you get your repeat clients. That's where you get the word of mouth. That's where you get those real results because your paycheck at the end of the day isn't the only thing that you're looking for. It's the results. It's
Yeah.
what you're doing for people, and to see the smile on their face and hear the gratitude in their voice and see them succeed, building them up and seeing them succeed, that is payment.
It's a gratifying and rewarding feeling, that's for sure. It's pretty incredible to witness transformation and you feel fulfilled. Your cup is filled when someone else is receiving and thanking you for it. It feels really good to be recognized for that type of thing. But yeah, it's so rewarding. It's so beneficial.
Oh, I love that. And you know what else? Your kids are seeing what you do too.
Well, I was actually going to share it because they're my first clients.
What?
Well, in the sense that these are the ones that I need to coach first. Like these are the ones that I consider, and they're not paying me. I'm doing that for free. You know, the reality is that I kind of use that same philosophy as a parenting technique. You can give yourself or you can give your children a fish or you can teach them to fish. And I really live
Mm,
by that. I don't think I was never given any handouts and stuff. And sure, my kids are going to have a little bit more privilege than I was ever given. But I want them to be critical thinkers. I want them to think for themselves. I want to challenge them. My son always says to me too, every time I say something, Dad, you're always challenging me. He was frustrated the other day. He called me out on it, right? And I said, one day you'll thank me for that.
mm.
Yeah.
I love that he's comfortable enough to say that too and call you out on it.
Yeah. Well, it's things are rubbing off. And it's because of that, effort that you make as a father and the time and the commitment and the discipline to have that sort of composure, because when you're teaching your kids something, let's face it, a lot of life lessons come from frustrations. You're
Hmm.
angry and the way you come across and you're frustrated, or I'm doing so many different things. Come on, you're driving me nuts at this time, you know? So, and I can fall into that same trap as well, but I recognize it really quickly. I've given my kids the permission to call me out on it. And
Mm.
they've turned it around so many times where I'm like, thank you. Thank you. And that's when you realize it's so much more than just the monetary reward. You realize that the impact that you're making, the change that you're creating, and you know, we got little humans to raise.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I can relate because I have two kids myself, and my son is 15, and he really frustrated me recently because English doesn't come very easy to him, the subject in school, right? Math, no problem. English, can't write an essay because he can't elaborate 7 sentences per paragraph. And it was like trying to pull teeth. And I found myself getting worked up. I found myself getting irritated and frustrated that I'm trying to explain it, but no matter what I said to him, he wasn't receiving the message. So I actually, without realizing it, but now this conversation is making me realize it, that I actually started turning it around on him and saying, okay, well, what do you do every day? Okay, you go to school 5 days a week. So why don't you explain to me the process in which you travel to school and arrive to your first class? And he's like, okay, so I get up and I go to school. I was like, okay, can you explain that to me in 7 sentences? And then as we broke it down, I was forcing him to think and break outside that box. He's a very simple kid, very straightforward, everything's one sentence. But breaking him outside of that and forcing him to think and forcing him to come out of his shell was a different way to approach it. And I also had to catch myself in my I don't know if it was short-temperedness or irritability, or maybe I had a long day, but I had to catch myself. And
Mhm.
not only that, but I also had to show humility and be honest with him. And I had to apologize to him and say, you know what, Hunter, I am so sorry that I was reactive and that I didn't take the time to really hear what you were saying. And I apologize. Can you find it in your heart to forgive me? And
Amazing.
giving them that power
Yeah.
of realizing, you know what, just because I'm a kid, it doesn't mean that I'm not equal. It doesn't mean that I don't have rights. And I can forgive you for doing that. Thank you for, and it really levels things out and it makes them human. And then they turn it around and then they spread that to their friends, right?
Yeah.
And that totally fills my heart.
Good
So
for
thank
you.
thank you
Good for
for
you.
sharing. It's hard
Good for you.
sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
For
because I
sure.
wasn't taught to do that. That's something that
Nope.
I had to learn as well.
Nope. I learned by a swift one. Yeah. You know?
Same. Yeah.
You need me to teach you again?
Oh goodness, I dare not ask any questions. I was afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
So with this, with your coaching, with everything that you're going on, I truly believe in what you're doing and who you are as a person and how you come from a very genuine, loving place. I want you to promote yourself. Why don't you tell everyone about who you are and how we can contact you?
Well, for sure. I appreciate it. The only social platform that I'm ever on is Facebook. So Ronnie Fisher on Facebook. And you can also find my website, ronniefisherconsulting.com, where there's a little bit of background information, how to reach me, phone numbers, emails, all of that information's there.
Okay, so that's Ronniefisher. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Beautiful. Okay, well, I'm going to get your socials. I'm going to post that online. I'm going to share that as well. Do you have any advice for our listeners when they are discovering their passion and they're deciding to put their past behind them and say, okay, I'm going to do this for me because I'm going to follow my passion. when they have that moment of doubt or something sneaks up on them, there's some sort of an obstacle or a partner who gets in their face and says, you're not going to do it this way. You're
Mhm.
going to do it my way. What's your word of advice on how to move forward and overcome those obstacles?
I don't know if it's just one word, might be more of a sentence, but at the end of the day, you got to do what you have to do to make yourself happy and fulfill and fill your own cup, right? So there are dream keepers that you may have in your life. Those are the people that are supportive of you. Those are the people that you feel comfortable with telling them your ideas, as crazy as that might sound. But there's also dream killers in our life. Those who are in our, and oftentimes they have the same last name, you know,
Mm-hmm.
family. They're the closest ones to us. And you tell them your dreams and they sabotage those dreams. They criticize those dreams. They don't believe that you have the capacity to do those. So a piece of advice would be just cautious who you surround yourself with. Caution who you're talking to. Surround yourself with the people that are going to support your dreams, support your goals, encourage you to think outside the box, challenge you, if you will, and just be very careful who you allow in your space.
That's really good advice. I like that. Thank you.
You're
If
welcome.
there's one thing that our listeners can do today to take that step forward, just one step, what would you say that is?
Well, it's going to be identify what your one step is. A lot of people, when they have, if you can have big goals, if you have them, a lot of people get stuck because of the paralysis by analysis, meaning that they don't know what that first step looks like because they're only focused on the end result. So the advice to the first step would be identify that one step and just take one step. The reality is you don't have to worry about taking all of the steps to get there. Just keep taking one at a time. Keep showing up for yourself, right? Discover what it is that you're passionate about. Discover what it is that your purpose. Why are you here? And I think that's it's going to help you take one step at a time, one foot in front of the other.
Yeah,
You know,
I
there's an
agree.
expression, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a
One
time.
bite at a time. And that's how it can feel. I've got an elephant in the room, but I don't know how to address it.
Right?
So, yeah, one bite at a time. Good advice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to join us today and to share your story. So, thank you for being a part of our community. And I really look forward to having you on again.
Well, you're very welcome. And thank you too for considering me. I think that this conversation, with absolutely no prep, you gave me some very critical questions to reconsider and to look at. And so I learned a lot as well, hearing you and hearing myself. So thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome. You're amazing. I hope you have a great day and we'll chat soon.
All right, enjoy.
This is the Powerhouse Podcast with Gabrielle Caine. Know someone who should be on the show? Email info@powerhousepodcast.com. Until next time, do one thing differently today.